Welcome, everybody. So welcome to this talk about SaaS performance testing with on-premise data security. Does anybody here work in a shop where you can't have your data go outside the firewall when you're doing testing? Anybody worried about scripts, right, et cetera? So what we're going to talk about today is an approach that lets you keep all the data you care about physically inside your firewall. It doesn't get encrypted and stored somewhere else. It literally never leaves your firewall. It never goes anywhere. And yet you still get a SaaS application that's updated every week or two behind the scenes with no maintenance on your part. You have the aggregation power of the number crunching in the web, but none of the data that you wouldn't want somebody else to see goes outside your firewall. So we call that private cloud. So let's take a look. Why do people like SaaS solutions? They like it because there's a low total cost of ownership, right? You're not maintaining servers, you're not spinning stuff up, you don't have people installing database updates and patches and all that kind of stuff. Generally, the products have kind of a non-technical configuration. SaaS apps, you just kind of go to your browser, fire it up, and you're good. They're scalable. They're designed to be elastic. Very easy to integrate because they're based on web APIs and the like. Our product, for instance, is all API-based. We build the API before we build the web GUI. So everything you can do in our product, you can do through APIs. And upgrades just happen automatically. And the time to benefit. You know, you get your login for a SaaS app, you expect to be using it pretty much right away. You don't have a 3 to 5 to 6 month deployment plan, right? Now, why do people like on-premise solutions? Well, there's data sensitivity issues. They don't want to worry about whether they've done the right thing, about whether data is protected or not. If the app is only available inside the firewall, they think, well, I'm good. I've got my own security. I don't have to worry about outsiders. Like having full control. You know, I really want to have control of everything. And there's this notion that we've been doing this all along. So if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But we talk to customers about what we can do with Blazemeter, how you can do open source performance testing, open source functional testing, and make it really easy to spread amongst teams beyond a center of excellence and kind of throughout the organization. And they're like, that's great, but I need an on-premise solution. And so what we did was we came up with a unique way to tackle this, which we call the private cloud. And in this situation, sensitive data never goes off-premise, right? And you still get the low total cost of ownership. There's minimal configuration, still scalable. There's still great integration, upgrades, and time to benefit. So let's talk about what does this mean. Let's step back and first look at the Blazemeter public cloud, right? So in this case, somebody wants to run a test. And so they upload a script to our back end, and they say, hey, I want to run this test. And that back end then fires up some load engines. Those load engines deliver traffic to the site under test. Then the responses come back. The load engines send that data into AWS to S3 into a database, basically, or data service. Gets stored in the database, comes back to our portal, and you get to see the results, right? So that's a SaaS app hitting something somewhere else besides inside my cloud, and that's how it works in the public world. Well, in the private cloud, what we do is we take that same goodness in the back end, all that usable, easily managed, you don't have to upgrade, you don't have to care for it stuff, and we add a very, very thin layer of our application we call the Blazemeter Proxy inside your firewall. And this proxy has one job, really, which is to actually take sensitive data and store it locally instead of sending it up to the cloud, and to put placeholders, not encrypted strings, just a token, just an index, right, in the data that goes to the cloud. And we'll see this in a second, so that the cloud can still do what the cloud does, but all the things you care about, that you're sensitive about, the data that you don't want other people to see, is stored in the local storage. So let's walk through it. So you'd hit this URL, not that URL. So you're hitting your local proxy inside the firewall, and it says, oh, yeah, you're authenticated, you're good. So I'm going to go ahead and let you fire up the engines, which are running also inside your firewall here, so that none of that data has to exit. And then I'm going to hit the site under test. The results are going to come back. And then that proxy right here is going to say, great, results coming back. I'll store all the stuff that's human readable here, and I'll send those tokens, those indexes, up to the cloud. And that's what happens there. The cloud does its thing, aggregates the data, comes up with the results, and shares it with the user. Now, when the results come back, the proxy says, oh, here come the results. Got a lot of tokens and a lot of indexes. I need to swap those out with the local data. So if you're inside the firewall and you're viewing the results, you see meaningful data. If you're outside the firewall and you somehow manage to hack into this, all you see is gibberish. You with me? Right? So super elegant, simple. Other people will say, well, I've got great encryption. I encrypt, and I've got very trusted employees. Yeah, I've got root access, but trust me, I'm very, very safe. don't worry about all your data that I have up here. We were like, no, with banks and insurance companies, they're much happier if the data physically never even leaves, right? And so that's what we're doing. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the UI. All right, so here, if you look, on the left side of my screen, I'm going to make this bigger for a sec. I'll make it nice and big. All right, so over here, I'm in a graph, and it says here, in this case, it just says dummy sampler success and dummy sampler fail, but these are my labels, right? Same thing with my error messages. If I have error messages coming back, all those strings I could read because I'm inside the firewall. But if I go outside the firewall and I'm looking at that same thing, all right, so now I'm seeing labels. Whoops! I'm seeing labels that are just. I'm just going to see these encrypt these gibberish strings. And I had it. I don't know what I did, Dan. So give me 1 second. I'm using an unusual environment. As you can imagine, I'm being inside the firewall and outside the firewall at the same time. So what I'm doing in this demo is a little bit of a hack. But you saw it there briefly, and then I walked away from it. I'm not sure what I did to myself. Let's go over here and refresh. Yeah, oh, that's the deal. Why did I lose my internet connection? No, I'm not. I'm on a hardwired connection, which is pretty crazy. So let's go for the quick plan B, and I will jump on. Gotta love it. The demo gremlins almost got me through the whole thing, and then here we are. So hardwired connection, you think that'd be great, right? But not always. All right, here we go. So. All right, so we're back in here, and we can see that if I look at my labels, they're just these strings that mean nothing to anybody, right? And if I go look, oh, let's look at the script associated with this test. Well, guess what? You can't find it. It's not there, and the log file's not there either. So we don't send any of that data outside the firewall, so somebody who's managing to get access to your system is not going to get access to that stuff. So file in use, there's this big long string that says, there's some files, but I'm not going to let you even know how many there are or what it is. And so point made, right? So let's wrap up with just kind of making the key points again. All right, so the first thing, SaaS, ease of use, low total cost of ownership. I didn't do much of a demo of Blazemeter here, but if you haven't seen Blazemeter before, it was designed so you could literally be told Blazemeter exists, go back to your hotel room, maybe after having 2 or 3 beers, frankly, get a free account, get in and run your first test in 10 minutes. That's the design behind Blazemeter, and we'll do a test later where we show how you can do 100,000 users in just a few minutes. So that ease of use and also the low cost of ownership. You're not installing patches, you're not installing databases and maintaining them, right? And then sensitive data never leaves the network. It's not encrypted. It literally never leaves your network. And you're always working on the latest platform version seamlessly. You don't have to upgrade. You don't have to worry about having cycles. Older legacy solutions were only updated every 2 years, and the reason why was that an upgrade would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in work just to make sure everything didn't break. In our case, we're updating about every 2 weeks. If we had a hot fix, we could do it faster, and that just happens, and you don't have to do anything behind the firewall, right? Eric, that is the end of my prezo.